Hulkster.
Yeah.
40 years of the Hulk, man. Our favorite, or at least close to our favorite. I know he's mine. I'm not
No,
sure where he ranks
my,
with you.
yeah.
What's that?
No, he's number one, Mike. Come on. He's number one. He always will be. I can't believe it's 40 years. Does this mean we're old?
I think so. I mean, what are your first memories of Hogan and then Hulkamania?
Well, Hogan, the first time I gazed upon the Immortal One, he was a bad guy. He was a villain in 1980 with Fred Blassie as his manager, and he had a feud with Andre. It's funny that never really gets talked about much, but it should. I loved his little feud with Andre. And he was great, and I always thought to myself from the very first moment I saw him, why is he not champion? Right away. It didn't matter if it was his first match coming into the WWF. He looked like a champion, and he was a great bad guy. He was a great bad guy then, way before the NWO, years and years later. Hulk Hogan never. I don't care if you don't like him, but you can't ignore the facts. Hulk Hogan always had it. Always, always had it. He came in as a big time bruiser, and he was scary. He was big, and he had Blassie. And he was pretty evil. He was.
I'm
He
trying
didn't
to
even have to
remember.
say much.
Did he face Backlund at the Garden or the Spectrum? I can't remember
Yeah, he
because
did.
he did.
No, well, it's a little before I got you into it, Mike, when he came around, because I completely link with the Cobra Clutch Challenge when we really got into it, but
Right.
he was around a little bit before that. He was at the Shea Stadium card, like I said. And that was right before I basically met you, and then the rest is history. But yeah, he fought Backlund. And I think he won by countout several times because they didn't. I don't even think Vince Sr. wanted to, have him lose. Hogan was Andre the Giant worthy right from the start. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? When you're in that ballpark and you can main event with Andre the Giant, and people are wondering if Andre can really beat him. It's different. I mean, Andre usually wrestled even the biggest names. He was twice the size of. He was not twice the size of Hulk Hogan. And make no mistake, in 1980, Hulk Hogan was immense. Most of the wrestlers weren't even close to his size. Let's get real here. You know what I mean? As far as what Vince Sr. was offering. Okay? When Hogan came in, it was like, oh my God, who is this guy? You
If
know?
I remember it right before the start of Hulkamania, obviously he's in the AWA. You and me aren't. I think we kind of got a little, and I don't want to speak for you, but I thought we kind of got away from wrestling a little bit. I remember us talking later on when we find out that the Iron Sheik defeats Bob Backlund. The reason I found out is I looked in the Daily News and they used to have a little section where they just gave the results, and I'm like, what? This can't be right. And I think you said you went through the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, did we get away from girls because of, from wrestling because of girls, drugs, both, if it's me, or what made us get away from all
I
of that?
think I think it was the girl thing, right? It was like we didn't
It
have
was the
time for the
girls.
wrestling thing anymore.
Yeah.
And with all
Right.
due respect, later on we find out after we have him in studio how much we truly loved him. I think we were a little
Right.
worn out on Bob Backlund.
Yeah, well, he held the belt for forever. I mean, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. He did drop it. But you know what I do clearly remember about Hogan being in the AWA, being very frustrated that he wasn't AWA champion. Don't you remember me talking about that? Because I do.
I remember reading the magazines and like that he won the title, but then they took the title from him. But
Right.
I I remember you and me were identified in the school as being two guys that loved pro wrestling in a school
Yeah.
that made fun of pro wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And I always pick out certain
Yep.
times. I remember, my father hated pro wrestling. And as stupid as it sounds, when Jimmy Snuka took down 3 dogs and 5 cops, and it was in the Daily News, I was like, you see, Dad? No. But if we remember when Rocky 3 came out, everybody was a huge Rocky fan. And even though Rocky
Right.
Balboa was this fake character, I
Right.
remember going to Rocky 3 with the whole school at the Elwood movie theater, and we're sitting there,
Yep.
and I'm cheering Hogan on
Right.
as everybody's
Right.
cheering on Rocky Balboa.
Right.
And
Right.
Hogan makes this great showing, and I was just like, I'm a Hogan fan.
Yeah. Well, I always was a Hogan fan, but I agree with you. Rocky 3 made me way more of a Hogan fan, and let's face it, made basically everybody a Hogan fan, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he brought so much attention to everything that Junior was getting ready to cook up. It was the perfect storm. It was the perfect timing. And it doesn't hurt that, unlike No Holds Barred, Rocky 3 is a great movie. And it's still great all these years later. Go ahead, kill me because you love No Holds Barred. Go ahead.
I do love No Holds Barred, man. I do.
What
So
is with you with that movie? It's terrible.
I
Anyway,
I think when Hogan finally beats a Sheik, right now,
yeah,
wrestling's changed forever, and now
right.
I'm full out Hulkamaniac, right? Posters on
Yeah.
the wall, working out
Oh,
like a
yeah.
maniac because I want to be Hulk Hogan,
Yeah.
and
Not me, but yeah.
literally
Still wanting
dating,
to be like Hulk Hogan without the weights, but go ahead.
literally dating a girl, going to a bar because I would
Oh,
stay
you.
like I'd give her money to go to the bar while I was watching Saturday night's main event. And I remember when Bundy like broke his ribs before WrestleMania 2, and I'm literally about to cry because Hulk
Right.
Hogan's ribs are broken. I mean, and
Right.
I'm not a young kid anymore. I'm like a
Right.
friggin' like 17, I think. I forget what I
Didn't
was.
didn't you go home after that? Like I gotta go. Hulk Hogan broke his ribs.
Yes,
You
yeah,
let
exactly.
So you give her money and leave her at the bar? Jimmy, I can't believe she cheated on me. What are you doing? What are you thinking? That's unbelievable, bro. I still love that story
It
because
is
I know it's true.
unbelievable that she cheated
I,
on me after that. How dare
I
she?
can't. I don't know. All I know. The next thing I knew, this chick was asking me if I wanted a drink, and she had $40. I don't know what happened.
You
No, you know
you
what? You know,
used my $40.
I'm sorry, man. The things that come out live on the air in front of millions. Hey, what are you gonna do? No,
Hence,
you know
that's
what?
why
One
I
more
didn't
thing.
talk to Jimmy for 27 years after that.
Would you stop it? You went to the army and I went to hell. I feel pretty good for somebody who's been there and back. Come on. But one more thing about Hogan, though. Here's a memory from me at WrestleMania 6 with Hogan Warrior. Right. At the time, I was driving a truck, and at the company I worked at, and we had a party, and all the young guys got together, and even some of the young girls, they were into the wrestling, so which was great. So we're watching these matches, and here comes Hogan Warrior. I'm the only one in the room. Hogan Warrior, you remember, so red hot. It's WrestleMania 6. Everybody's rooting for the Warrior, right? I'm rooting for Hogan. We know what happens. Great match, classic, blah, blah, blah. Hogan loser, right? Everyone is celebrating. I got to piss on this parade, right? I simply said, okay, all have your freaking night. Go ahead. Yuck it up. I said, you want to know what the future fucking jabro? It's right there in the yellow and red because he's still going to mean something in 10, 15 years. And that guy's going to be a flash in the pan. And everybody got real mad at me. But I was kind of right. Kind of. I won't call the great Ultimate Warrior a flash in the pan now, but I was really mad because I had felt like, they made the wrong decision. I guess I was thinking business wise. To me, Hogan is going to still be great. And then I was right years and years later with Hogan Rock when everybody was picking on, oh, he ruined WCW. He has no more box office draw. His time is done, blah, 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 blah. And then what was that, Mike? 75, 80,000 people up in Canada went
Yeah.
absolutely berserk and said, no, we're rooting for the bad guy. This didn't happen back then, folks. We're rooting for Hulk Hogan because we love him and we remember all he gave to us over all the years. Kick his ass, get the Rock. How great. How great that Hogan could do this at that age, decades and decades into his career and almost at the end, where the fans do say, you know something? We do appreciate you. You were great.
I don't mean to shit on any other wrestlers, but if you think of the greatest matches of all time, and when I mean
Yeah.
matches, matches that meant something. Forget about wrestling matches. I don't care about that, right? Just that meant anything. And Hogan, if you
Yeah.
did a top 10, Hogan's in 5. You know what I mean?
Uh, I could see him being in five of a lot of folks' lists. Of course, as you said, it's really generational. The kids today would probably not have Hogan on any of their matches. I mean, have you stopped to think about that? That kind of makes me nauseous. But
That is
look,
true.
to each his own. To each his own. To every generation their own. Also, I will say, if a wrestling match happens to have great wrestling moves in it, and it's great, and I'm totally engaged by the storyline and everything, then that's fine too. But Hogan, to me, he's got so many legendary matches, way more than most people. Most people who've been in this business. And if they think that he doesn't, then they're just being historically ignorant. Look, I was not a huge Bret Hart fan. Am I going to sit here and tell anybody with a straight face that Bret Hart doesn't have a handful of some of the greatest matches ever? No, because I love those matches. Doesn't mean I have to like his character or be into him. So let people have their opinion. Hulk Hogan is the greatest historically, whether you believe it or not, is fine. But I know it in my heart. Hulk Hogan did more than anybody. He changed this business. He flipped it upside down. And everybody today that does well in this business owes a debt to the Immortal One.
But the one thing, though, Jimmy, I was watching an old Saturday Night Live before WrestleMania 1. He's a
Yeah.
terrible actor, man. I mean, he
Oh,
is the worst actor of all time.
he's not a good. He never was a good actor. I mean, it's funny. Okay, how about this? If you have to rate how Hogan was in Rocky 3, I would say he was serviceable.
Well, he's a
But that's the
wrestler.
best
He
acting you
wasn't.
ever.
There was no stretch there.
He was serviceable.
And
But I mean, for the role, he was serviceable. You never got anything better from him after that. As a matter of fact, it was just every episode was like Abe Lincoln on Star Trek.
wait a minute. Hogan wasn't serviceable. He was below in Rocky 3, if you think about it. Come on. I'm going to break him in half. I mean, come on, man. It's just bad.
Yeah, I
Bad.
guess you're right, because Stallone is the one I always quote. Hey, why don't you say we make this look good? I push you, you push me. Hey, he ain't playing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Stallone made it, but Hogan did, like you said, he did his job in that film. But everything at Thunderbirds in Paradise? Oh my God,
He's just awful,
Yeah.
man. It's
terrible.
amazing how bad
Terrible.
a person can be as an actor. Like, you have
Yeah.
to try really hard to be that bad. But
You know,
iconic line, I smell Dookie.
Oh,
We all love that.
God.
So, Jimmy,
Yeah,
I'm going to jump
we
to
do,
another
but
subject with you, right? The
it
rest